Reborn from ashes, the vengeful queen of a false world. Chapter 1, Burned alive, reborn from the flames. Fire. Endless, raging fire. Crimson tongues of flame lashed greedily at the polished wooden walls, scorching heat searing her skin, thick smoke choking her lungs with every ragged breath she took. Adele White was trapped in the locked attic of her private villa. Heavy fallen beams pinned her limbs to the floor, rendering her completely immobile. Through the cracked window, the neon lights of late-night New York glittered bright and prosperous, a cruel, stark contrast to the hellish blaze consuming the room around her. This villa had been her 18th birthday gift from the White family, a place she had once deemed the safest, warmest haven in the world. Now, it was her deathbed. A soft knocking echoed through the thick wooden door, cutting through the roar of the flames. Two voices, the ones she had trusted and loved most in this world, drifted inside, sweet and sickeningly cold. "Don't struggle, Adele. It's useless." It was Leah Bloom, the girl she had raised and cherished for 12 long years, her dearest and most loyal best friend. Her tone was gentle, innocent, angelic yet laced with unmasked malice. The doors locked tight. "No one's coming for you. Jason shut down the entire villa security system hours ago." Tears burned Adele's eyes, only to be evaporated instantly by the sweltering heat. Her throat was raw and hoarse, barely capable of forming a single coherent word. Why? The man she was supposed to marry, her fiancé Jason Cole, let out a low, mocking chuckle from outside the door. His voice, once warm and soothing to her ears, was now cold and ruthless. "Don't take it personally, Adele. The White group has been hollowed out for months. You're too naive, too spoiled, too stupid to hold on to your family's empire. Only Leah is worthy of standing by my side, worthy of inheriting everything you have." Another wooden beam crashed to the floor, sending sparks flying everywhere. The scalding burn on Adele's arm was agonizing, yet it paled in comparison to the sharp, crushing pain tearing through her heart. She replayed her entire life in fragments, rushing through her dying mind. She had been the brightest socialite in New York, born into wealth and privilege, doted on by her parents since childhood. Blind to the darkness lurking in human nature, she had lived a sheltered, innocent life. She had pitied Leah, an orphan taken in by the Whites. She had spoiled her, protected her, shared all her resources, connections, and luxuries with her, treating her like a real sister. She had fallen hard for Jason's gentlemanly charm, defying all warnings to get engaged to him, pouring her family's wealth and power into boosting his career, convinced she had found true love. But she had been lied to, deceived, and betrayed every single step of the way. Leah's gentleness was a mask. Her obedience was a performance. 12 years of sisterly affection had been nothing but a calculated, long-con scheme. Jason's tenderness was fake. His devotion was an act. He had never loved her, only the White family's power and fortune. For years, the two had carried on a secret affair. They had drained the White group dry together, spread vicious rumors to ruin her reputation as a spoiled, reckless socialite, and finally set this fire to erase her completely. "I treated you both so well," Adele gasped, bloodshot eyes flooding with despair and rage. "How could you do this to me?" Leah's soft laugh turned sharp and twisted, no longer hiding her years of festering hatred. "Treated me well? You condescended to me, Adele. You lived in the spotlight while I lingered in your shadow. Everything you own was supposed to be mine. Why do you get to have it all?" The words struck Adele like thunder, shattering every last fragment of her naive worldview. Before she could process the truth, the towering flames swallowed her whole. Burning heat devoured her dress, her hair, her skin, searing every nerve ending in her body. As her vision blurred and consciousness faded, a face she had spent years ignoring and hurting flashed through her dying thoughts. Elliot Sawyer. The heir to America's most secretive and powerful financial consortium. Gloomy, reserved, and socially isolated, yet the only person who had ever loved her unconditionally. While the entire high society mocked his dark background and odd temperament, he had silently shielded her from every scheme, every rumor, every harm that came her way. He had warned her about Jason's greed and Leah's hypocrisy. And how had she repaid him? She had humiliated him publicly, calling him a rat from the gutter, unworthy of speaking to her. She had pushed him away again and again, choosing her traitorous fiancé and fake best friend over the only person who truly cared for her. When he was smeared online and his family faced ruthless suppression, she had cut off all ties with him without a second thought, abandoning him in his darkest hour. She was the fool who betrayed her only savior and trusted two wolves in sheep's clothing. If only she could start over. She would never be so blind again. She would never hurt Elliot again. She would make these two betrayers pay for every ounce of pain they had given her. Darkness crashed over her, drowning her in endless regret and hatred. The soft beeping of an alarm pulled her back from the abyss. No fire. No smoke. No scorching pain. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, warming the soft silk sheets beneath her. The room was filled with her familiar light floral scent. Adele jolted upright, gasping for air, her body covered in cold sweat, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. She frantically touched her skin smooth, unscarred, untouched by fire. She scanned her bedroom, taking in the familiar decor of her 19th year, the youthful photo of herself smiling brightly on her desk, the innocent girl she had once been. Trembling, she grabbed her phone and lit up the screen. September 15th. The day before her 19th birthday gala. 4 full years before she would burn to death in that villa fire. She was reborn. Reborn before every tragedy had taken root. All her childish naivety and foolish infatuation had been incinerated in the flames of her past life. What remained was a heart tempered by fire, cold and sharp, filled with burning hatred and deep, inexpiable guilt. Leah. Jason. Every sin you committed against me, I will repay tenfold. And Elliot. In this life, I will protect you. I will love you. I will atone for every wrong I ever did to you. Chapter 2, Dropping the Act, Tearing Off the Masks. The morning sunlight was gentle, yet it could never warm the frozen depths of Adele's heart. In mere minutes, she had fully composed herself and sorted out the timeline of her second life. She was 19, 6 months into her engagement with Jason. She had once been utterly obsessed with him and blindly trusting of Leah. Tomorrow's birthday gala was the exact starting point of all her misfortunes. On that night in her past life, Leah had worn the custom gown Adele had gifted her, playing the pitiful, innocent orphan to win the sympathy of every elder present. Jason had presented an extravagant birthday gift, solidifying his image as the perfect, devoted fiancé. And she, blinded by arrogance and foolishness, had publicly humiliated Elliot Sawyer, driving him completely out of her world. From that night onward, everyone in high society labeled her a spoiled, ignorant heiress and praised Leah as kind, sensible, and loyal. All her pain and ruin had sprouted from that single gala. A soft knock sounded at the door, followed by Leah's sweet, velvety voice, a stark contrast to the vicious tone she had used outside the burning attic. Adele, you're awake. I made your favorite blueberry muffins for breakfast. The snake had come to her door, ready to continue her years of flawless performance. Come in. Adele's voice was calm, cold, and stripped of all the warmth and affection she had once held for this girl. The door pushed open slowly. Leah stood in a pure white sundress, her long hair falling softly over her shoulders, her eyes gentle and harmless, holding a delicate breakfast tray in her hands. You slept well? Tomorrow's your big birthday. I got up extra early to make these for you. Leah stepped forward, instinctively reaching out to wrap her arm around Adele's, the same intimate gesture she had used 1,000 times before. In her past life, Adele would have hugged her back instantly, gushing about how sweet and precious she was. Now, she shifted slightly, subtly dodging Leah's touch, drawing a clear line between them. Leah's hand froze midair. Her bright smile faltered, shock flashing across her eyes, fast but unmistakable. Never once had Adele avoided her affection. What's wrong, Adele? Leah recovered in an instant, her eyes welling with vulnerable tears, her tone soft and aggrieved. Did I do something to upset you? The classic White Lotus act, playing the victim to force others into submission. It had worked on the naive Adele for 12 years. Adele stared straight at her flawless fake face, every gentle smile and innocent look now triggering the horrific memory of Leah's twisted laughter in the fire. Nothing's wrong. Adele's tone was flat and distant. Just don't barge into my bedroom unannounced anymore. And stop making me breakfast. It's too much trouble. Leah's face paled completely, her confusion escalating to unease. Trouble? Adele had never once thought her efforts were troublesome. She had always begged Leah to stay by her side. It's no trouble at all. I love taking care of you. Leah bit her lower lip, her eyes glistening with suppressed tears. Did I say something wrong yesterday? Please don't be mad at me. Adele curled her lips into a cold, empty smile. You're overthinking. I'm not angry. I just think we need some distance between us. Distance? Leah's voice trembled, utterly bewildered. We're best friends, Adele. We've always been best friends. We were. Adele's gaze was sharp and unyielding, piercing through every layer of Leah's pretense. We won't be anymore. The soft, casual sentence sliced through their 12-year fake friendship like a sharp blade. Leah's body stiffened, panic swirling wildly in her heart. Adele was different. She was no longer naive, no longer soft, no longer blindly indulgent of her every move. Just then, Adele's phone rang. The screen lit up with Jason's name. Leah's eyes flickered with a hidden, subtle glint, quickly masking her panic with gentle concern. It's Jason. He must be calling to wish you an early happy birthday. Once, the sight of Jason's name would have filled Adele with excitement. Now, it only brought her physical nausea. She pressed decline without hesitation, tossing the phone carelessly onto her pillow. Leah was completely stunned. Adele worshipped Jason. She never missed a single one of his calls, no matter how busy she was. Yet she had just rejected him outright. If you have nothing else to say, leave. I need to prepare for tonight's gala. Adele's tone was final, an unmistakable dismissal. Leah's nails dug deep into her palms, jealousy and suspicion churning violently in her chest. Something was very wrong with Adele, but she dared not press further. She forced a docile smile and nodded obediently. All right. Call me if you need anything at all. The second the door clicked shut behind her, every trace of gentleness vanished from Leah's face, leaving only dark, calculating malice. The room fell silent. Adele leaned back against the headboard, exhaling a long, quiet breath. The game had officially begun. This time, she would strip away every fake mask, crush every traitor, and redeem the boy she had ruined. Elliot! Wait for me! Chapter 3, Crossing the Crowd, Choosing Only You. Night fell over Manhattan, and the private elite estate burst into a sea of dazzling lights. The White family's 19th birthday gala for Adele gathered half of New York's top socialites. Luxury cars lined the driveway, guests draped in haute couture filled the ballroom, and the air hummed with the shallow laughter and polished conversations of high society. This night had once been the brightest and most foolish night of Adele's life. Tonight, she wore a minimalist black velvet gown, her long hair loosely pinned up to expose her slender, elegant neckline. Her childish innocence was gone, replaced by a cold, refined grace that stunned every guest in attendance. The crowd whispered endless praises, admiring the white heiress's growing beauty and poise. Only Adele knew her soul was no longer that of a naive 19-year-old girl. It was weathered by fire, hatred, and endless regret. Adele! Jason strode toward her, dressed in a crisp white custom suit, his features warm and gentlemanly, the perfect image of a high-society nobleman. He reached out instinctively to take her hand, his eyes filled with practiced tender affection. I'm sorry I missed your call this morning. I've prepared a special birthday gift for you. Adele sidestepped him silently, avoiding his touch without the slightest hesitation. Thank you, but I don't need it. Jason's outstretched hand froze in midair. His gentle smile faltered, confusion flickering in his eyes. Adele, what's wrong? Nothing. Adele had no patience for his fake tenderness. She swept her gaze across the bustling ballroom. I have somewhere to be. Excuse me. She turned and walked away without a single backward glance, leaving Jason standing alone in the crowd, stunned and baffled. Leah watched the entire scene from a distance, her doubts growing heavier by the second. Adele's coldness toward Jason was unprecedented. Whatever had changed, it was not good for her plans. Ignoring the curious stares of the crowd, Adele wove through the throng of socialites, her steps steady and purposeful, heading straight for the darkest, most isolated corner of the ballroom. There stood a lone young man. Dim light fell over his tall, slender frame, separating him entirely from the noisy, extravagant crowd. Dressed in a sleek black suit, his features were sharp, cold, and impossibly handsome. A thick aura of solitude and indifference clung to him, keeping every person at a distance. Elliot Sawyer. While everyone around her indulged in flattery and petty social climbing, he stood alone in the shadows, watching the farce of high society with icy detachment. This was the exact spot where she had destroyed everything in her past life. Here, she had screamed cruel insults at him, calling him a gutter rat, unworthy of appearing at her party, unworthy of standing beside her. Those harsh words had haunted her every night after her death. Elliot lifted his head, catching her approaching figure. His deep black eyes were cold and bottomless, filled with weariness and quiet confusion. The entire room was waiting to watch her humiliate him again. All eyes locked onto their interaction, filled with mocking anticipation. But the scene everyone expected never came. Adele stopped directly in front of him, tilting her chin up to meet his frosty gaze. All the coldness in her eyes melted away, leaving only fragile tenderness and overwhelming guilt. "Elliot," she said softly, her voice clear enough for only him to hear. "It's good to see you. Thank you for coming to my birthday gala." Elliot's body went rigid. His pupils contracted sharply, shock rippling across his cold features. No insults. No disgust. No rejection. She was smiling at him, a soft, genuine smile he had never once seen from her in all their years of acquaintance. Adele's heart ached fiercely as she stared at his stunned expression. How much pain had he endured in silence, all because of her foolishness and cruelty? "In this life, I will only look at you. I will only favor you. I will make up for every tear and every wound I once gave you." Elliot stared down at her, his cold mind struggling to process her sudden change. Every memory he had of her was sharp and cruel, yet now she stood before him gentle and apologetic, shattering all his established perceptions. Before he could speak, Leah hurried over, her eyes wide with feigned concern, inserting herself between them smoothly. "Adele, everyone's looking for you. You're the birthday girl, you can't stay hidden in the corner all night." She glanced subtly at Elliot, her tone laced with hidden disdain, masked as politeness. "Mr. Sawyer, it's a lovely party, but I'm sure you understand Adele has guests to greet." Her words were a subtle dismissal, echoing the attitude everyone held toward Elliot, an outcast who did not belong in their high circle. In her past life, Adele would have agreed instantly, pulling Leah away and leaving Elliot alone in the shadows. Now, Adele's gaze turned cold, sharp enough to make Leah's fake smile falter. "I'm exactly where I want to be." Adele's voice was steady and unyielding, loud enough for the nearby guests to hear clearly. "I'd rather stay here than greet any other guest tonight." The surrounding crowd fell dead silent. Whispers erupted instantly, shock rippling through the ballroom. The proud white heiress was choosing the cold, unpopular Elliot Sawyer over her perfect fiancé and the entire upper class? Jason's figure appeared at the edge of the crowd, his warm smile completely gone, replaced by dark, possessive jealousy. He stared at Adele's focused gaze on Elliot, his jaw tightening with unspoken anger. Leah's heart sank. Her plan to separate them had failed completely. Worse, Adele was openly favoring Elliot, disrupting every scheme she had carefully laid out. Elliot's eyes remained locked on Adele's face, the cold ice in his deep gaze slowly cracking, replaced by tangled, unreadable emotion, confusion, suspicion, and a tiny, buried spark of longing he had thought long dead. He did not believe her change of heart. He could not believe it. But for the first time in years, he could not bring himself to walk away from her either. Adele ignored the entire world staring at them. She leaned slightly closer to Elliot, her tone soft and sincere, only for his ears. "Let me accompany you tonight. If you don't mind." The corners of Elliot's lips tightened. His voice was low, cold, and laced with quiet skepticism, a subtle test of her intentions. "Why the sudden kindness, Adele?" "I was wrong before." She did not shy away from his sharp gaze, her eyes filled with honest regret. "I want to correct my mistakes." Before Elliot could respond, Leah made another move, grabbing Adele's wrist tightly, her eyes glistening with fake tears. "Adele, you're embarrassing yourself. Everyone's talking. Mr. Sawyer is not someone you should associate with." Adele yanked her wrist free sharply, her movements clean and ruthless, no longer tolerating her hypocrisy. "Watch your words, Leah." Her tone was icy, a clear warning. "You have no right to judge who I associate with." Leah stumbled back slightly, her face pale and aggrieved, instantly drawing the sympathetic attention of the surrounding elders. I just don't want people to slander you, she stammered, playing the victim perfectly. Adele let out a cold laugh, ready to dismantle her act completely. But before she could speak, a cold, low voice cut through the whispers, sharp and protective. No one dares slander her. Elliot stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Adele, his cold gaze sweeping over the crowd, over Leah's fake tearful face, over Jason's furious stare. The overwhelming aura of the top financial tycoon exploded outward instantly, silencing every whisper and freezing every mocking gaze in place. His eyes locked onto Leah, cold and unforgiving. Mind your place. The simple sentence carried immense pressure, making Leah's body tremble uncontrollably. She had never seen Elliot so intimidating, so openly defensive of Adele. Adele stared at his straight, protective back, her heart flooding with bitter, warm soreness. Even after all the cruelty she had given him, he would still stand up for her at the first sign of trouble. This life, she would never let him stand alone in the shadows again. The gala continued in awkward silence. Every guest was watching the bizarre shift in dynamics, realizing the entire high society script had been rewritten overnight. The spoiled, naive white heiress was gone. In her place stood a sharp, calm young woman who favored the outcast genius and openly defied her perfect fiancé and beloved best friend. The war of revenge and redemption had only just begun. That night, after the gala ended and the guests dispersed, Adele deliberately stayed behind. She caught up to Elliot before he could leave the estate, stopping him at the quiet garden path lined with glowing lampposts. The night breeze brushed through her loose strands of hair, soft against her cheeks. "Elliot, can I talk to you for a minute?" He paused, turning to face her, his expression still guarded and cold, no trace of warmth. "What do you want to say?" His tone was distant, as if speaking to a stranger, not the girl who had once torn his heart to shreds. Adele took a deep breath, bracing herself to face the weight of her past sins. "I know I treated you terribly before. I said unforgivable things, pushed you away countless times, and ignored all your kindness." Her voice was quiet but firm, sincere without a trace of pretense. "I regret every single bit of it." Elliot's gaze flickered, his cold expression wavering for a split second before hardening again. "Regret is meaningless." He took a step forward, towering over her, his eyes sharp enough to see through every lie. "Adele, tell me the truth. What do you want from me now? My power? My connections? Or are you simply bored of Jason and looking for a new toy?" His words were cold and cutting, the same harsh tone she had once used on him 100 times over. Adele's eyes stung faintly, but she did not flinch or retreat. She deserved every bit of his suspicion and cruelty. "I don't want anything from you." She lifted her head, meeting his eyes steadily. "I just want to make it right. I want to treat you the way you always deserve to be treated." Elliot stared down at her quiet, earnest face for a long moment, the darkness in his eyes churning endlessly. He wanted to believe her, wanted to grasp the warmth she was offering, but the scars from years of her cruelty were too deep, too fresh. "You'll get tired of this new game soon enough." He stepped past her, his voice cold and final. "I don't play games with my heart, Adele." He walked away into the night, leaving Adele standing alone under the lamplight. She did not chase after him. She knew patience was the only way to mend the wounds she had inflicted. She would take it slow. She would break down his walls one by one. She would prove to him that this time, her heart was true. Behind her, hidden in the shadow of the garden hedge, Leah stood frozen, her hands clenched tightly at her sides, her eyes filled with vicious, unbridled hatred. Adele was changing. She was seeing through her lies, pushing Jason away, and chasing after Elliot Sawyer. All her years of careful planning were crumbling away. Leah's lips curved into a cold, ruthless smile. If Adele wanted to ruin her perfect life, then she would ruin Adele right back. The battle was far from over. It had only just begun. Chapter 4: Poisonous Schemes Behind Closed Doors. The night breeze swept across the perfectly trimmed garden hedges, carrying the faint scent of roses and cold autumn frost. Adele stood alone under the vintage lamppost, watching Elliot's tall figure vanish into the dark night. His car engine rumbled softly in the distance before fading completely into the silence. There was no rush in her heart anymore, no desperate urge to chase after him and explain everything at once. She knew better than anyone that Elliot Sawyer's trust was not something that could be mended with a single apology or a sudden change of attitude. Years of cold rejection, public humiliation, and cruel indifference had carved deep scars into his heart. Scars that would not fade easily. But she had time. 4 extra years of life, a second chance no one else possessed. She would use every single day to atone, to prove that her remorse was not a fleeting whim, not a rich girl's board game. Adele turned around slowly, her black velvet gown flowing gently with her movement. The bustling gala had long quieted down. Most guests had left, only the household staff remained to clean up the extravagant mess of the night. However, one person had stayed behind. Leah emerged from the shadowed hedge where she had been hiding moments earlier. The gentle, docile light in her eyes was completely stripped away, replaced by a sharp, venomous darkness that she never dared show in front of others. She walked toward Adele slowly, her steps quiet and calculated, like a predator circling its prey. "You've changed so much recently, Adele." Leah's voice was soft, almost sweet, but layered with undisguised suspicion and resentment. "I can't understand you anymore. One day you're cold to me, the next you're cold to Jason, and tonight, you threw away everyone's approval just to favor Elliot Sawyer." Adele lifted her gaze, her expression calm and unwavering, no longer affected by Leah's pretense. "Is there a problem with that?" "Of course there is." Leah lowered her voice, her tone trembling with fake grievance, perfectly rehearsed to make herself look vulnerable and wronged. "Everyone in high society is talking about you tonight. They're saying you've gone crazy, that you're abandoning your perfect fiancé for a dangerous, cold outcast. Your reputation is crumbling overnight. I'm only worried for you." Adele let out a low, mocking laugh. Reputation? In her past life, it was Leah who had spent 4 years slowly tarnishing her name, spreading private rumors, twisting every one of her mistakes into unforgivable flaws, and painting herself as the gentle, loyal best friend who endured Adele's arrogance in silence. Now Leah was pretending to care about her reputation, all while secretly celebrating every small misstep Adele took. "You don't need to worry about me." Adele's tone was icy and final. "My reputation is my own responsibility. It's none of your business." Leah's fake trembling intensified. She reached out, trying to grab Adele's arm again, attempting to force their old intimate dynamic back into place. "But we're best friends. I've always been by your side." "No," Adele stepped back sharply, cutting her off mid-sentence. "You are not my best friend, Leah. Not anymore." The words landed like a slap across Leah's face. Leah's face paled instantly, her eyes welling up with real rage masked as heartbreak. For 12 years, she had clung to Adele's side, endured being her shadow, swallowed her pride, and played the obedient little orphan just to climb higher. Now Adele was throwing her aside without a second thought. "Is this because of Elliot?" Leah whispered bitterly, unable to hide her jealousy any longer. "You're choosing him over me? Over Jason? Over everyone who's always loved you? You never loved me." Adele stared straight into her eyes, unafraid to expose the truth. "You only loved what I could give you. My money, my status, my connections, my life." Leah's breath caught. For a split second, panic flashed across her face, terrified that Adele had somehow seen through her decades of hidden hatred. But she quickly recomposed herself, forcing tears to spill down her cheeks, putting on her most convincing victim expression. "I can't believe you think that of me. I've sacrificed so much for you, Adele. I've given up everything just to stay by your side, and this is how you repay me?" Adele was no longer moved by her performance. She had watched this woman lock her in a burning villa and laugh at her death. No amount of fake tears could ever fool her again. "Save your acting for others." Adele turned to leave, her tone cold and dismissive. "I'm tired of watching your show." As Adele walked past her, Leah's eyes turned dark and murderous. She stared at Adele's elegant, unyielding back, her nails digging deep into her palms until they bled faintly under the night moonlight. Fine. If Adele wanted to be cruel, she could play crueler. If Adele wanted to break their fake friendship, she would destroy Adele completely before she had the chance to fix everything. Leah quickly wiped away her tears, her sweet expression hardening into cold calculation. She pulled out her phone and sent a short, hidden message to Jason. Seconds later, Jason replied. Chapter 5, The Manipulative Couple's Scheme. The next morning arrived with bright, clear sunlight spilling through the villa windows. Adele had slept soundly for the first time since her rebirth. For 4 years in her past life, she had tossed and turned in endless regret and fear. Now, knowing she had a chance to rewrite her fate, her heart finally felt steady. She had just finished dressing in a simple white casual dress when her housekeeper knocked on the bedroom door. "Miss Adele, Mr. Jason is here to visit. He's waiting for you in the living room with Miss Leah." Adele's eyes turned cold. They came together. Just like in her past life. Whenever she distanced herself from Jason, Leah would take the initiative to mediate, playing the good friend who helped reconcile the loving couple, while secretly fueling both sides' emotions to keep Adele trapped under their control. In her previous life, she had always been grateful for Leah's kindness, unaware that she was the hidden thread pulling all the strings. "Let them wait," Adele said calmly, sitting down at her vanity to apply light makeup. "I'll be down soon." 20 minutes later, Adele walked into the luxurious living room. Jason was sitting on the sofa, holding a delicate gift box in his hands, his expression gentle and helpless, like a wronged lover. Leah sat beside him, her eyes red and puffy, as if she had been crying for a long time on Adele's behalf. The scene was perfectly staged, designed to make Adele look arrogant and heartless. "Adele." Jason stood up the moment he saw her, his voice soft and patient. "I know you were upset with me last night, but I hope you can listen to me explain." Leah immediately chimed in, her tone pitiful and persuasive. "Adele, Jason was really hurt last night. Everyone was mocking him because you favored Mr. Sawyer in front of the whole crowd. He loves you so much, he never deserved such public humiliation." Adele stood in place, her gaze indifferent, watching their coordinated performance without the slightest fluctuation in her heart. "Public humiliation?" She repeated the words faintly. "I merely spoke the truth. I wanted to stand with Elliot, so I did." "How is that humiliating you?" Jason's gentle smile faded a little, his eyes darkening with suppressed possessiveness. "Adele, you're my fiancé. People are saying you're cheating on me with Elliot Sawyer. Do you know how damaging that is to both our reputations?" "Let them talk." Adele shrugged casually. "Reputation is built on oneself, not on others' gossip." Jason was stunned. He had never seen Adele so indifferent to social opinion. In the past, she had cared obsessively about their perfect couple image, afraid of any rumor that would ruin their engagement. "This isn't like you." Jason's voice turned deeper, colder. "What happened to you lately? Why are you suddenly so hostile to me?" Before Adele could answer, Leah stepped forward, placing a soft hand on Adele's arm, her tone gentle and persuasive. "Adele, I know you're probably just confused. Elliot has always been quiet and mysterious, and it's normal to feel curious about him. But curiosity isn't love. Jason is the one who has always treated you well, who's always been suitable for you. Elliot Sawyer is too dangerous, no one in high society dares to get close to him for a reason." This was exactly the same line Leah had used in her past life. She had spent years planting negative rumors about Elliot in Adele's ears, painting him as dark, dangerous, twisted, and unworthy of her, while glorifying Jason's false gentleness. In the end, Adele had avoided Elliot completely, falling straight into the trap the two had set for her. But not this time. Adele glanced at Leah's hypocritical face and smiled coldly. "Dangerous? The only dangerous people around me are the ones who pretend to be my friends while stabbing me in the back." Leah's face stiffened instantly, her heart jolting with panic. Jason's expression also turned grim. He could clearly feel that Adele was no longer under their control. She was breaking free from their grasp, step by step. "Adele, you're being irrational." Jason's tone turned firm and authoritative, using his old trick of pretending to be the reasonable, mature partner. "Apologize to me publicly tonight, end this ridiculous rumor about you and Elliot, and we can go back to normal." "Normal?" Adele raised an eyebrow, her gaze sharp and mocking. "You mean the normal where you pretend to love me while secretly dating my best friend?" The air in the living room froze completely. Jason and Leah both turned pale, their eyes filled with utter shock and terror. How did she know? Their affair had always been extremely secret. They had never left any obvious evidence, never dared expose their relationship in front of Adele. How could she have discovered it so suddenly? Leah recovered first, her eyes instantly turning red, her voice trembling with extreme grievance. Adele! Where did you hear such terrible slander? How could you doubt Jason and me? We would never betray you. Jason also quickly adjusted his expression, putting on a hurt and disappointed look. Adele, this is too much. I can accept your anger, but I cannot accept these baseless accusations. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for me and Leah? They were still acting, still trying to reverse the situation and make Adele look like the unreasonable, suspicious villain. Adele watched their flawless cooperation and felt only endless disgust. In her past life, she had been fooled by this performance countless times. She had even apologized to them, cried and felt guilty for doubting her most trusted people. Now she saw clearly how ridiculous and naive she had been. Baseless accusations? Adele took out her phone calmly, opening a hidden photo album she had prepared early that morning. She had used her rebirth memories to retrieve the earliest private photos of Jason and Leah's secret dates, photos they had thought were deleted forever. Photos of them hugging intimately in a private cinema, kissing in a luxury hotel corridor, holding hands secretly at a charity banquet, eyes filled with affection that they never showed to Adele. Adele held up her phone, letting the bright screen clearly display the photos for both of them to see. Are these still baseless? Jason and Leah's faces turned completely white, all their pretense crumbling in an instant. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably, panic swallowing their rationality. They had no idea when Adele had obtained these photos. These were their deepest, most well-hidden secrets. These are fake. Leah stammered desperately, trying to deny everything. They're edited. Someone is framing us to ruin our friendship. Edited? Adele smiled faintly, sliding her finger across the screen to reveal the original shooting time, location, and metadata. The original files are right here. You can check them yourself. Jason's gentle mask completely shattered. His eyes turned dark and ruthless, no longer hiding his true selfishness and viciousness. He knew there was no way to deny it anymore. Even if it's true, so what? Jason's voice turned cold and arrogant. Adele, you've always been spoiled and self-centered. You never cared about my feelings, never treated me sincerely. Leah is the only one who truly understands me, who truly comforts me. He was shamelessly justifying his betrayal, shifting all the blame onto Adele. Leah immediately nodded tearfully, cooperating perfectly with him. It's true, Adele. You're too dazzling, too high above everyone. Jason has always felt inferior beside you. I only comforted him as a friend, we never meant to hurt you. Enough. Adele interrupted their hypocritical excuses coldly. She had heard enough of their disgusting lies in her past life. She would not waste a single second listening to them now. Jason Cole. Adele looked straight at him, her tone clear and final. From today onward, our engagement is completely terminated. Don't ever appear in front of me again. Jason's eyes widened sharply, disbelief flashing across his face. Terminate the engagement? In his imagination, Adele would cry, make a scene, beg him not to leave her, and forgive him in the end just to keep their perfect socialite couple image. He had never expected her to break off the engagement so decisively, so easily, without a single trace of reluctance. You're breaking off our engagement? Jason's voice turned low and dangerous, possessiveness flaring wildly in his chest. Adele, you can't do this. Our engagement was publicly announced to the entire upper class. You can't ruin it on a whim. I can, and I will. Adele's gaze was icy. I don't need a cheating fiancé who betrays me with my so-called best friend. She then turned to Leah, her tone devoid of any warmth. And you, Leah? From today on, you are no longer welcome in the White family villa. Pack your things and leave immediately. Leah's face turned ghastly pale. Panic finally truly engulfed her. Leave the White villa? She had lived here for 12 years, relying on the White family's wealth and status to climb into high society. Without the White family, she was nothing but a poor orphan with no background, no connections, no future. Adele! You can't drive me out! Leah screamed, no longer able to maintain her gentle mask. I've lived here for 12 years. This is my home too. You can't abandon me like this. This was never your home. Adele said ruthlessly. You've been living in my shadow, eating my food, wearing my gifts, and plotting against me for 12 years. It's time for you to pay back what you owe. Leah stared at her in horror, finally realizing that Adele was no longer the foolish, soft-hearted girl she had manipulated for over a decade. This Adele was cold, sharp, decisive, and completely fearless of her fake tears and victim plays. You'll regret this. Leah shouted hysterically, her voice twisted with hatred. You'll regret pushing me away. You'll lose everything without me and Jason. Adele let out a faint, mocking smile. The only one who will lose everything is you. Chapter 6: Elliot's Hidden Protection. After being driven out of the white villa, Jason and Leah left in complete embarrassment. The moment they stepped out of the gate, Leah's tearful expression disappeared completely. She turned to Jason, her eyes dark and furious. It's all Elliot Sawyer's fault. If it weren't for him suddenly distracting Adele, she would never have woken up so quickly. Jason's face was extremely ugly. He had never suffered such a humiliating defeat in his life. He had always been the one controlling the relationship, the one holding Adele in the palm of his hand. Now he had been dumped publicly, his reputation severely damaged. Don't worry. Jason's voice was cold and sinister. She thinks she can break off the engagement and chase Elliot freely? It's not that easy. I'll ruin her plan before she gets the chance. Leah looked at him, her eyes filled with vicious calculation. What are you going to do? High society cares about reputation the most. Jason sneered. If I spread the news that Adele went crazy after breaking up with me, that she's obsessively pestering the dangerous Elliot Sawyer, ruining her own dignity and status, everyone will mock her, isolate her. The White family will even force her to reconcile with me to save their reputation. Leah's eyes lit up instantly. Perfect. We'll let her lose all public support. When she has no one left, she'll have no choice but to come back to us. The two reached a sinister consensus in an instant, ready to launch a public reputation attack on Adele. That afternoon, countless gossip rumors began spreading rapidly throughout New York's upper-class circles. Rumors piled up one after another, all carefully guided by Jason and Leah's hidden connections. They painted Adele as an irrational, infatuated, ruined heiress and Elliot as a dangerous, manipulative devil who seduced innocent young ladies. For a time, almost every noble family in New York was discussing Adele's downfall. Many elders called the White family to inquire about the situation, criticizing Adele for being too willful and reckless. Adele's parents were extremely worried, repeatedly calling her to persuade her to reconcile with Jason and stay away from Elliot. Faced with the overwhelming public opinion pressure, Adele remained extremely calm. She had expected this counterattack from Jason and Leah. In her past life, they had used exactly the same method to ruin her reputation, leaving her with no one to trust, no one to turn to. But this time, she was no longer alone. Just as the rumors reached their craziest peak, all gossip posts, all private discussion records, all anonymous slander articles were completely deleted from every platform within 10 minutes. All the social accounts that spread the rumors were instantly banned, their back-end data completely erased. The public opinion storm that had swept through high society vanished overnight, clean and thorough, without leaving a single trace. No one knew who had made the move. Only Adele knew. Only Elliot Sawyer possessed such terrifying, absolute power in New York's financial and media circles. Only he could suppress the entire upper-class public opinion with a single silent order. He had seen her being attacked by rumors, and without a single word to her, he had cleaned up all the mess for her quietly. Adele's heart softened completely, filled with warm, sour emotion. Even when he was suspicious of her, even when he refused to trust her, he still could not bear to see her suffer any grievance. That night, Adele took the initiative to send Elliot a message. She thought he would not reply, or would reply coldly and distantly. But 5 minutes later, a short message popped up on her screen. Adele stared at the words, a soft smile tugging at her lips. He was still stubborn, still unwilling to admit his care for her. But she knew the truth. The ice around his heart was already slowly melting for her. The road of redemption was long, but she was finally walking in the right direction. Chapter 7: The First Crack in His Cold Walls. On the weekend, Adele received an invitation to a private elite cocktail party held by the New York Youth Financial Association. Almost all the young heirs of top families would attend, including Jason, Leah, and Elliot. Adele knew that this party would be the next battlefield. Jason and Leah would definitely take the opportunity to reverse public opinion and discredit her again. But she was no longer afraid. She dressed in a low-key yet elegant silver gray gown, simple and cold, completely different from her previous bright, glamorous style. She arrived at the cocktail party alone, calm and composed. As soon as she entered the venue, countless eyes locked onto her, filled with curiosity, judgment, and mockery. Many people whispered privately, mocking her for being abandoned by her perfect fiancé and chasing a cold outcast. Leah stood beside Jason in the center of the crowd, her eyes cold and triumphant. She had deliberately dressed in a soft, pure white dress, looking gentle and pitiful, like the innocent victim in the whole farce. Jason raised his glass to greet the surrounding guests, acting like a heartbroken man who had been wronged by his capricious fiancé. The two of them were using the entire party to shape their new public image. Adele. Leah took the initiative to walk over, her voice soft and aggrieved, attracting everyone's attention. I know you're still angry with me, but I really don't want our relationship to end like this. Can we talk it out privately? Her words were perfectly calculated to make Adele look like the cruel, unforgiving party in front of everyone. The surrounding crowd quieted down, waiting to watch Adele lose her temper and confirm her arrogant reputation. But Adele merely looked at her calmly and said in a clear, steady voice loud enough for everyone to hear. There's nothing to talk about. You stole my fiancé, betrayed my trust, and plotted against me for years. I have no need to reconcile with a traitor. The crowd erupted into shocked murmurs. Leah's face turned pale instantly, panic flaring in her eyes. She had not expected Adele to expose everything directly in public. You're lying! Leah cried out urgently, tears welling in her eyes. You're slandering me to save your reputation. I have never betrayed you. Am I? Adele raised her phone again, projecting the clearer, original high-definition photos of their intimate affairs onto the large party screen behind her with one click. The entire venue fell dead silent. Every guest stared at the huge screen, their eyes wide with shock. The intimate kisses, secret hugs, and ambiguous touches between Jason and Leah were displayed clearly in front of everyone's eyes, undeniable and irrefutable. All the rumors, all the fake victim scripts, all the public opinions the two had fabricated collapsed completely in an instant. Jason's perfect gentleman image was shattered. Leah's innocent and loyal best friend persona was destroyed forever. Everyone finally realized the truth. It was not Adele who was willful and ungrateful. It was this pair of hypocritical traitors who had betrayed her in secret and smeared her in public. Leah stood frozen in place, tears stuck on her face, utterly humiliated and desperate. Jason's expression turned ferocious, his eyes filled with uncontrollable rage. He wanted to rush forward and snatch Adele's phone, but he dared not move under the gaze of the entire upper-class circle. Just as the crowd was boiling with discussion, a low, cold voice sounded from the entrance of the venue. Who dares to make trouble for her? Elliot Sawyer walked in slowly. His tall figure blocked the light behind him, his entire body exuding a terrifying, oppressive aura. His deep black eyes swept coldly across Jason and Leah, sharp enough to pierce through their bones. The noisy venue instantly turned dead silent. Everyone held their breath, not daring to make a single sound. Elliot stepped forward slowly, walking straight to Adele's side. He glanced down at her slightly tense figure, his cold eyes softening for a fleeting second. Then he turned back to the petrified pair, his tone icy and ruthless. From today on, the Sawyer Group completely cuts off all business cooperation with the Cole family and the Bloom family. Anyone in the industry who dares to cooperate with them will be declaring war on me. One sentence. One absolute, terrifying sentence. It completely crushed Jason's family business and destroyed Leah's last chance to integrate into high society. Jason's face turned ashen gray, his legs trembling uncontrollably. He knew what this sentence meant: the complete collapse of his family's century-old business. Leah collapsed on the spot, her eyes filled with utter despair. She had spent 12 years climbing upward, enduring humiliation and grievance, plotting and scheming, just to climb out of the mud and stand in the spotlight. Now everything was ruined in one night. Elliot ignored their desperate expressions. He lowered his head slightly, his cold gaze landing only on Adele. Are you okay? His voice was low, subtle, and undisguisedly gentle, completely different from the icy tone he used for everyone else. Adele looked up at him, her eyes bright and warm under the party lights. "I'm fine." This time, she was truly fine. Because the person who had always guarded her in the dark was finally standing by her side openly. The long road of redemption and revenge was officially on track. And the cold, lonely boy who had loved her for years was finally beginning to let her into his sealed heart.